there was a video that Lindsay Ellis posted the other day called Mask Off, and for some reason this is being very widely promoted by YouTube's algorithm, and I don't know why. But it's actually a really interesting video and very revealing in many different ways. And it's fascinating that Lindsay Ellis, coming on 35, has finally harmonised with the position of Milo Yiannopoulos, where literally she's saying the exact same words as Milo. And she's not wrong now that she's adopted his position. So the question is that a few weeks ago we covered this, I think. Why was Lindsay Ellis cancelled? And cancelled being the word in question, the definition of cancelled is what we're going to be looking at. But apparently in a now deleted tweet she had written, also, I watched Raya and The Last Dragon, and I think we just need to come up with a name for this genre that is basically Avatar The Last Airbender Reduxes. And it's like, right, okay. And so people were angry because if you are a very uncharitable Twitter user, you can say, oh, well, she's making a racial comment about Asian animation, and this is unflattering, apparently, being compared to Avatar The Last Airbender, and therefore she bad. And the Twitter mob did what the Twitter mob did. She ended up deleting her account for a day or so. She ended up restoring it because there was nothing that happened to her. She did it to herself, so she could just go back on. After the emotional pain had subsided, she was like, yeah, I do need my fix, though. And she had to log back in. And so she puts out this Mask Off video and talking about this. And like I said, it's 1.5 million views, so it's like, okay, well, we may as well talk about this. And so I guess we'll begin with how she frames it.
You do. So I told her my name, and she's like, I'm gonna Google you, and I was like, okay, but I'm super canceled right now. And she like laughed and clearly thought I was kidding, or maybe didn't know what that meant, or knew it in some like right-wing way.
So this is her in a just some town at a restaurant, talking to a waitress with her mother, and the waitress is like, oh, you're a famous YouTuber, who are you? And she says, she Googles them, and then like, I'm super cancelled right now, and she either didn't understand what that meant or understood it in a right-wing way. Now that's really, really useful, right? Because, I mean, imagine the frame of mind you have to be in to think a waitress at a restaurant thinks you're a bad person because you're cancelled on Twitter. Like, imagine that being your moral barometer of, oh God, this person's cancelled on Twitter. Oh, they must be bad. And so she's like, look, I'm sorry, I'm cancelled on Twitter right now. Don't judge me. That's so pathetic, right? But the main point of that is the importance, is the distinction between the left-wing way of understanding cancel culture and the right-wing way of understanding cancel culture. And I'm glad that Lindsay can admit that there are two different ways of viewing this, because it definitely does have two different effects on the people being cancelled. Anyway, so let's go on to her definition of being cancelled. What is it to be cancelled?
Canceling is a public shaming of a member of a community for some violation of that community's standards by other members of that community.
Wrong. That's not what that is, Lindsay. That's just you living with a bunch of people in your community who want to find something negative about you to have a go at you for because they like metaphorically tearing down idols. No, being cancelled is way, way worse than that. And if you'd ever been cancelled for anything in your life, you would know this.
I suppose you could say left-wing cancelling is just being shamed, whereas right-wing cancelling is something else.
Yes, that's exactly what that is. Left-wing cancelling is indeed that. So it's a bunch of people on Twitter who say, I don't like Lindsay Ellis. Lindsay Ellis is a bad person. Therefore, we should all unsubscribe from Lindsay Ellis or bully her or whatever it is they do, right? And they've got a community on Twitter that does this. They enjoy doing it. And she spends a lot of this video calling them out, which is great, I suppose, but you could have done this years ago when it was affecting other people. But yeah, as we're saying, the right-wing experience of cancel culture is way more vicious than that. It is people being deplatformed from all of their social media accounts, and this can happen as a cascade effect, where eventually Alex Jones is on his Twitter account and everyone's looking at Jack Dorsey going, so? And Jack's like, what? Aren't you going to cancel Alex Jones and take away his Twitter account? He's like, well, he hasn't broken the rules yet.
As if that mattered?
Yeah, as if that mattered. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. And so, of course, when it came to the cancelling of a sitting president, he not only got all of his social media taken away, even though he didn't incite riots and violence on January the 6th, he also got bank accounts closed and he got various other financial attacks on him. So what they've done is try to ruin him. So Lindsay Ellis,
a little bit of shame.
No, it was not. Yeah, I mean, God, imagine like if she was subjected to 1 minute's worth of the shame that Trump got on Twitter on a daily basis, she'd probably top herself. Like, if she thinks what happened to her over this tweet was bad, imagine living in Trump's shoes. But of course, she can't do that because evil right wing. But this is the point. She has no experience or knowledge of what cancel culture actually is, and it is just the most mild form of it brushed up against her, and she deleted her account. She shut down her own Twitter account. So she is absolutely talking from a position of ignorance on this. Was there anything you wanted to add to this, by the way?
Not really, except the fact that she referenced it as being, it's when a member of the community is shamed by members of that community against them, as if it's just inter-community. That's never inter-community. I mean, the right-wing experience is entirely, except with a few exceptions, let's say, that it's the left trying to cancel members of the right.
Yeah, I mean, the only notable right-wing person who has been cancelled by the right wing is Milo Yiannopoulos, when, was it the Reagan Battalion, which strike me again as a kind of leftist skin suit, wearing conservative mask, decided to dig up his position on his own view on his personal abuse, and then he got cancelled for it by the Conservatives.
So there's a reason she views it like that, because most cancel culture she views as just like left-on-left violence, whereas no, there's most of it seems to be them trying to cancel right-wingers of things that are notable. The left-on-left violence is just them.
Well, it used to be, right? It used to be, but I imagine that what has really happened is, from the perspective of Lindsay Ellis, she's not going to be watching Fox News, Tucker Carlson. She's not going to be following Donald Trump or, Steven Crowder or anything like that. Or maybe she followed Trump because he was president. But, she's not going to be following, like, the right-wing echo chamber. And so she doesn't watch as these people literally get their lives destroyed by cancel culture.
British Voldemort.
Alex Jones, Milo, all of these people just taken away. And so she doesn't see that. What she sees is a big, angry, buzzing mob of left-wingers on Twitter. But she sees them when they're coming for her, when they're in her mentions. If they're in someone else from right-wingers' mentions, and if they're in the mentions of some company, getting that person shut down from that service and any other service that they can get access to, then she doesn't know about it. So to her, it does just look like when a bunch of lefties on Twitter shame you. But it's like, that's because they're not going after your PayPal, Lindsay. They're not taking down your Patreon, Lindsay. They're not getting your channel demonetized, Lindsay. They're not getting your channel removed from YouTube, Lindsay.
Your bank account.
Getting your bank account shut down, Lindsay. It's a bit worse than you're letting on, Lindsay. You bloody self-centered bint. Anyway, let's go for the next clip.
So to cancel someone wasn't a call to deplatform. It was more just saying, you stepped out of line, so I'm done with you. The connotation of this term with callouts and deplatforming didn't happen until a few years ago, as Me Too began and callouts did lead to some powerful people actually losing things. According to Washington Post writer Clyde McGrady, as callouts led to greater consequences, some people became nervous about how social media had changed power dynamics in the court of public opinion. Cancel culture was the diagnosis, and the term became a catch-all defense for those trying to evade public criticism of any kind. But now, cancel is just another word that white people have taken and run into the ground. So like woke before it, it has gone from AAVE vernacular to right-wing grievance buzzword, which is more or less where we are today.
She doesn't care that right-wingers have been suffering in exactly the same way she complains about suffering, to a much greater extent. It's okay because they're right-wing. That's Lindsay Ellis's moral framework. It's okay to do this to the right wing because they are the bad guys. She's like a child. An absolute child. But again, the framing and dismissiveness aside, this most effective and most dangerous view of cancel culture probably won't happen to Lindsay Ellis because she'll just bend the knee and submit to whatever the left-wing mob is going to demand of her because she agrees with those political positions. But let's not rule it out, Lindsay. Let's absolutely not rule out that at some point you will be considered so problematic that this will come for you. It could be that PayPal one day say, no, Lindsay Ellis has to go. But also, I noticed that that article she had was from April this year, after the deplatforming of Donald Trump, I believe. So literally every other major right-winger who can be cancelled has been cancelled, including the president, and now it's nipping at Lindsay Ellis's heels. So okay, well, what did you expect them to do? Everyone, when Donald Trump was deplatformed, about 100,000 other active users on Twitter, not big accounts, but just normal users, were also deplatformed. So the right wing on Twitter just got completely shunted off, which is why they went to Parler, which is why Parler got cancelled. and which is now back on Apple in a very sanitized
They just
form.
got shamed by members of their
Yeah,
community.
exactly, and it's like, so it's an enemy community doing this, a community that has deep enmity towards the right wing, totally dismissive of them, and they're suffering as human beings. Lindsay can't even understand that right wingers are human beings at this point, and she was just unaware of it because she lives in a bubble of privilege. Anyway, so we can see we've mapped these out. Well, like, I haven't, but various academics have mapped out these sort of Twitter bubbles, and I couldn't find the one for YouTube. I can't remember what it was called, and so I couldn't dig it up. But this is just one study done by professors at Harvard University that just analyzes the overall structure of the media landscape, which shows the media systems on the left and the right on Twitter operate differently. There's an asymmetric polarization of media is evident in both the open web linking and social media sharing measures. Prominent media on the left are well distributed across the center left, and the left, whereas on the right, prominent media are highly partisan, which means that the far left dominates the middle ground. The far left, the left, the left, the centre left, and then the centre is all left-wing dominated, and it's only in those exclusively right-wing spaces that right-wing media is prominent. Again, conquest second law in full effect here. Anything that's not explicitly anti-leftist becomes leftist over time, which is why the centre is now a left-wing haven, according to these professors. And of course, after the mass deplatforming of, this was in 2017, this was done. But the point is, we can identify these political landscapes, these territories on Twitter, and we can see them move in real time. And so, yeah, this is definitely a real phenomenon that's going on. It's definitely a left-wing cancel culture mob that is getting their rocks off by attacking the people on Twitter, and now they're running out of right-wingers. And so, Lindsay, how does it feel?
Really only now that I can make sense of it, that I got so many hate follows after that people were so eager to screen cap anything and everything I said on Twitter, no matter how minor or petty, to create this narrative of me as a secret horrible person just because I stood up for my friend. And I don't regret doing it. I would do it again, but it is insane that I am paying such a high price for that now. And now my other colleagues are being targeted for no other reason than the crime of being friends with me, for not publicly denouncing me, for not validating their anger.
Yeah, it's called a struggle session, and it's happened to us all. When everyone goes, you're a racist, and you sit there going, no, I'm not, look, here are reasons why I'm not. They go, no, we don't care, you're a racist. This is a struggle session. This is where you can't win. And the fact that, like, you're paying such a high price for this now, when your book gets removed, like Josh Hawley, when you lose all of your financial income, when you lose your platform on YouTube, then you can talk to us about it paying a high price. As it is now, you have paid no price. In fact, you've gained 1.5 million views, probably loads of new subscribers, loads of new patrons. Oh, she's been under attack. There has actually been no price here. When you pay a price, you'll know how that feels.
I mean, we can literally say $0.
$0.
Probably net up dollars.
Yeah, net positive dollars.
Yes. So, I just want to play another clip, which is her talking about Donald Trump and the fact that you could never cancel Donald Trump. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
But they
Why
did.
are you wasting so much energy on this? Because you can't impact people who are actually doing your community harm. You can't shame the shameless. Trump will never face justice. Brett Kavanaugh's on the Supreme Court for life. Ben Shapiro gets off on your outrage. So you shame those who can be shamed. And if you call one of us bigoted enough times, people will start to believe it, and then you can feel like you solved racism by spreading lies about a person you have never met and never will, and was doing you and your community no harm. Well done.
Well done, Lindsay.
Level of self-awareness.
Well done. Arriving at that position that every right-winger has been saying right up until this point, where you have now adopted that position. Like, that is honestly amazing. People lie. They lie constantly. They lie constantly on Twitter about you in order to hurt your reputation, in order to try and get you removed from the public discourse. That's what they've done. I mean, if they can't cancel Donald Trump, how exactly is it that they cancelled Donald Trump? I mean, what are you going to do? Tweet him? Why don't you go to his Facebook page, find out what his view on this is? Maybe his YouTube channel. What?
Contact his bank.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. Like, who are you going to ask? Anyway. Let's get to Lindsay coming to the final conclusion of what the problem is.
A friend of mine named it the Beast, the name for this fear that we all live under but don't acknowledge. And over the last few years, I have had so many of my colleagues, all of them women, people of color, trans people, queer people, or some combination of the above, voice to me the constant anxiety that they live with about maybe saying something wrong that will get them on the bad side of their own communities. Every thought is a hostage situation. Is this the tweet that's going to sink me? So what do we call it? What is the name for this unspoken, unacknowledged culture of fear where we all know that one misstep can ruin our lives? This social media culture where we participate in the public shaming one day and become chained to the pillory the next. We can't even talk about it because the beast does not have a name. If we admit that this is a problem, then the right will just take it and run with it and use it to increase their own power. Same as they did with cancel. Same as they did with woke. Same as they did with fake news. If it has a name, then it has power. So it is a discussion that cannot be had. And so we do not have it. We say cancel culture doesn't exist and ignore this disease. Pretend it isn't doing real harm. Not just to individuals who are targeted, but to the state of discourse in general, and especially to individuals in marginalized groups, because they are always held to the highest standard of purity and they always have the most to lose.
That is just beautiful. That is just so... That is perfect.
What do we call it? We call it the left.
Yeah.
Don't know what you call it.
This is your audience. This isn't my audience that's doing this. This isn't Callum's audience. This isn't Stephen Crowder's audience. It's your audience that does this. You have courted these people. The online Twitter left, the woke mob that you're a part of and pander to on every video. And I love the framing, though. I love the framing. Just like, well, I mean, the right will take it and gain power. Well, why do you want the beast to have power? Because that's how this works at the moment. You are feeding the beast. You're the one who made it strong. And now it's bitten you and you're like, oh God, that bites hard. I don't like that very much. And everyone's like, you can't talk about how badly the beast bites.
It's like 5 guys with their heads bitten off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, literally loads of people with their heads bitten off, but I didn't like those people. So I'm not worried about them. And in fact, I don't really consider them to be people, so it's better that they're gone. But now what's going on? Oh, it's biting me. No, we can't. You can't talk about how powerfully the beast bites. You've got to continue feeding it. This is...
But I also love the open admission there.
Yeah.
That we say that cancel culture doesn't exist because otherwise it would harm us.
Yeah.
Great. So you've been lying. Like
Yeah.
all of those articles, cancel culture is fake. There were conservatives complaining about cancel culture. It's not real. Okay, yeah, it's a lie. Just open admission. Yeah, we've been lying to you. That's
Lindsay
their
Ellis,
position.
ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube, all of these left-wingers, big prominent left-wingers, bunch of liars. All of the media outlets, bunch of liars. All of the politicians who aren't talking about this, bunch of liars. So the people
Thanks for
telling the
telling us,
truth,
Lindsay.
the people telling the truth are the YouTubers like us, the right-wing media, and the right-wing politicians, and Donald Trump. But they gain power from it. It's like, really, that's interesting. You gain power from telling the truth. That's very interesting. Or you can gain power from feeding the beast. The thing is, only one of these things is dangerous and comes along to bite you. Let's go for the next one.
It isn't even about saying something tone deaf or insensitive. A mere difference in opinion might get you fired from your job if enough people raise a stink about it. And just so we're clear, I'm not really even talking about me. I will be fine. But living under the shadow of the beast makes it hard to just create at all.
My God. Didn't we say the same thing in 2016, 2017, Lindsay? We were saying exactly those words.
Welcome to the far right.
Yes. Don't worry, Lindsay, we're not going to cancel you.
God.
But this is literally word for word how right-wingers described cancel culture. But Lindsay doesn't like this because this apparently is, my right-wing, my power. But it's true. It's just a true statement of reality. You've caused this.
That's the thing. It's never even been a position of the right, in my opinion. It's always been a position of centrists, even centre-left, and right-wingers. It's just
Absolutely.
you guys categorised everyone as right-wing,
Yeah.
who possibly said that the beast here was a bad idea.
While you thought you were holding the lead and the beast was biting your opponents, you liked the beast. And now the beast has run out of things to devour and is turning on you. You're the closest thing that it can devour. Oh, suddenly we've got to call this out and admit this is bad. No, you're bad. You're a bad person, Lindsay Ellis. You did this. You played into this. You helped gestate this thing. You gave birth to it on Twitter, and you are just as implicated in the development of the thing as any of your peers, any of your colleagues, as you say, all of the left wing, all of these activists, all of these media outlets, you're all complicit in it. You're all guilty of creating this beast. I hope it eats every single one of you. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.